What would you say if a cop turned a simple traffic stop into a full car search in less than 2 minutes? If you say the wrong thing, you can hand over your rights before you even know it. And once that happens, the whole stop can go sideways fast. Hit subscribe right now because what I'm about to show you could save you from a search, a charge, or a very bad night. Smash like too, because you need to find this again before a real stop, not during one. Most people have no idea how fast a traffic stop can change. 1 second, it's a busted taillight. Next second, you're answering weird questions, stepping out, getting patted down, and hearing, "You don't mind if I take a quick look, right?" That little word right there, mind, is a trap. It makes the whole thing sound casual, friendly, harmless. It isn't. In this video, you're going to learn the exact sentence that blocks consent searches, the question that can stop officers from dragging the stop out, and the one response that keeps you from talking yourself into trouble. Let me show you exactly how these stops stretch, how officers test your fear, and how smart drivers keep control without yelling, resisting, or making the stop worse. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings, and yes, you need to know it before blue lights ever hit your mirror. Let's talk about what goes wrong for almost everyone. You get nervous, your hands shake, you want the officer to like you, so you start talking too much. You explain where you came from, where you're going, why your friend borrowed the car, why you're tired, why you seemed nervous. Then you answer questions that had nothing to do with the traffic stop. Then comes the big one. You don't have anything illegal in the car, do you? That question is not small talk. It's a setup. Here's the reality. A normal traffic stop is supposed to be about the traffic reason, license, registration, insurance, ticket or warning, done. But officers often try to turn that stop into a fishing trip. They look for nervous behavior, extra words, confused answers, and consent. If you don't know where the line is, you cross it for them. And once you do, getting back control gets very hard. The first move you need is simple, calm, and powerful. If an officer asks to search your car, your trunk, your bag, or anything inside, you say one sentence and then you stop talking. Here's exactly what you say. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Word for word, memorize that line. Say it in a calm voice, not angry, not shaky, not sarcastic, just clear. This matters because consent changes everything. If you say yes, even softly, even with a shrug, even with "I guess so," you just gave permission. And once you give permission, it becomes much harder to fight that search later. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it creates a clean record. You did not agree. You did not open the door for them. You made them use actual legal grounds if they wanted to search anyway. Bad way, most drivers say, I don't have anything, so sure." Then the officer searches the car, opens containers, finds something old, weird, borrowed, or misunderstood, and now your whole night is gone. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Then the officer has to decide whether they truly have another legal reason or whether the fishing trip ends right there. Watch what happens when the officer hears that sentence. The whole stop changes. They can't lean on your permission anymore. Now they need something else. Maybe probable cause, which means a real reason to think evidence is there. Maybe a warrant later, maybe nothing at all. This is 100% legal. You are not required to help build a case against yourself by handing over consent for free. And no, refusing consent does not mean you can physically stop a search. That part matters. If the officer searches anyway, you do not argue with your hands, you do not block, you do not reach. You stay calm and repeat the line once. "I do not consent to any searches." That protects you later. If the search was bad, your lawyer has something solid to work with. The case behind this is huge. In Rodriguez, United States, the Supreme Court said police cannot stretch a traffic stop longer than needed just to investigate other stuff without a real extra reason. That means the mission of the stop matters. A taillight stop is for the taillight issue, not for a free tour of your trunk. And if an officer can get around that by tricking you into consent, that's exactly why you need the sentence ready before it happens. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and one pattern shows up again and again. Drivers talk themselves into a search because they think saying no looks guilty. It doesn't. It looks informed, it looks careful, it looks like someone who knows where the line is. Former police officers have confirmed this works because the moment you refuse politely, the officer knows you understand the game. That alone changes how the stop moves. Still watching? Good. Drop a like if this is already blowing your mind, and tell me in the comments if you've ever been asked for a quick search during a stop. The second move is the timing question. This one matters after the officer has your documents, runs them, and seems done with the traffic part. If the warning or ticket is handled, but the officer keeps you there with random questions, you need one clean line. You look at the officer and say this: "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Those exact words, keep your voice level, then stop talking. Here's the trick, they don't want you knowing. A lot of drivers think the officer can keep them there forever just because the lights are on. Not true. The stop has a mission. Once that mission is done, the officer needs a lawful reason to keep you. If they don't have one, the stop should end. This is 100% legal. You are allowed to ask if you are free to go. Bad way. Most drivers say, are we done, or should I just wait? Or what do you need from me? Then the officer keeps chatting, keeps digging, and keeps the stop alive. Good way. Smart drivers say, am I being detained or am I free to leave? Then the officer has to make it clear, either you're free to go or they're now claiming a legal reason to hold you. That question works because it forces clarity. No fog, no endless small talk, no invisible extension. If the officer says you're free to go, leave calmly. If the officer says you're detained, now the legal stakes change, and the reason for holding you matters much more. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection when a stop starts drifting into a side investigation. A lot of people miss the danger here. The officer may sound casual. Hang tight for a sec. Mind if I ask a few more questions? Just sit tight while I check one more thing. That extra minute is where many searches begin. That extra minute is where dog sniff delays happen. That extra minute is where drivers get worn down and start consenting just to end the stress. Rodriguez is the case you need in your head. In plain English, the Supreme Court said police cannot make a stop longer than needed for the traffic job unless they have real extra suspicion. So if the warning is written, your papers are back, and the officer is now poking around for more, your question matters. Am I being detained or am I free to leave? It draws a bright line. Let me show you exactly why this is so strong. You are not demanding. You are not threatening. You are not arguing law on the roadside. You are simply asking whether the stop is still lawful or finished. That is clean, that is calm, that is smart, and when officers know you understand that line, they often tighten up fast. Here's the reality. A lot of bad traffic stop outcomes happen after the original stop should have already been over. Not during the first minute. After. That's why this question is so powerful. It attacks the delay before the delay becomes the whole case. The third move is about your mouth. Not your hands, not your attitude, your mouth. During a traffic stop, officers often ask questions that feel harmless but are really probes. Where are you coming from? Where are you headed? Whose car is this? Why are you nervous? Have you had anything to drink? Some of those questions may connect to the reason for the stop, some do not, and drivers love to fill silence with extra details. That is where they get hurt. Here's exactly what you say if the questions drift into investigation. I choose to remain silent, and I want a lawyer if I'm being questioned. Say it slowly. Say it clearly. Then stop talking unless you need to identify yourself or handle basic document issues required by law. Listen closely because this is critical. Remaining silent does not mean being rude. It means you stop giving free information. Berkemer v. McCarty explains why this gets confusing. The Supreme Court said normal roadside questioning during a routine traffic stop is usually not the same as full custody. That means officers often do not have to read you Miranda rights right there, and that means many drivers wrongly think every answer is safe because no warning was read. Wrong. No Miranda warning does not mean your words can't be used. It often means you are talking without realizing the danger. Bad way. Most drivers say, I'm not nervous, I just left my cousin's place, and yeah, the car is my friend's, and I was only there for 10 minutes. Then the officer spots little gaps, strange details, or changing facts and turns that into suspicion. Good way. Smart drivers say, I choose to remain silent and I want a lawyer if I'm being questioned. Then the driver stops feeding the stop with extra words. Watch what happens after that. The officer loses one of the biggest tools in the box, which is getting you to build the story for them. People think the danger is hidden drugs or some crazy secret. A lot of times the danger is just your own talking. You say too much, you guess, you try to sound helpful, you fix one answer with another answer, and now the officer says your story changed. Former police officers have confirmed this works because silence removes the easy openings. If officers have a real reason, they'll act on it. If they don't, your silence keeps them from creating one out of nervous chatter. And if the stop later gets reviewed, there is a big difference between a calm, silent driver and a driver who talked for 8 minutes straight. 90% of drivers don't know what's coming next. If you're still here, you're already ahead of almost everyone. Drop a comment saying, I'm still here, because the next tactic is the one people mess up with their body, not their words. The fourth move is the compliance trap. Officers can legally order you out of the car during a lawful stop. A lot of drivers think stepping out means they've already lost. Not true. Pennsylvania v. Mimms says officers can make the driver get out during a lawful stop, so do not fight that order. Do not argue about that order on the shoulder. The smart move is to comply physically while protecting yourself verbally. Here's exactly what you say. I will step out, but I do not consent to any searches or questioning. That line does two things at once. It shows you are not resisting the lawful order to exit, and it shows you are not volunteering for anything extra. That split matters. Bad way. Most drivers say, why do I have to get out? I didn't do anything. Then the stop gets tense, the officer gets more forceful, and now every movement looks worse. Good way? Smart drivers say, I will step out, but I do not consent to any searches or questioning. Then the officer gets compliance without getting free permission. This is where people confuse two different things. An officer ordering you out of the car is one thing, searching you or your stuff is another thing. Those are not the same. Arizona v. Johnson says officers may pat someone down during a traffic stop only if they have reason to think that person is armed and dangerous, not just because they feel like it. Not just because you said no to a search, there needs to be a safety reason. So if you are ordered out, step out calmly, keep your hands where they can be seen, do not make quick moves, do not argue on repeat. If the officer starts a frisk or reaches for bags, state your line once, I do not consent to any searches, then stay still. You are protecting the record, not trying to win a sidewalk debate. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it separates lawful compliance from unlawful consent. That difference can matter a lot later. One shows you followed commands, the other shows you never gave up your rights. Now let's put the court cases into plain English so this sticks in your head. Pennsylvania v. Mimms means if the stop is lawful, the officer can tell you to step out of the car, so don't fight that part, just comply and keep your words clean. Rodriguez v. United States means the officer cannot drag the stop out longer than needed for the traffic issue unless there is a real extra reason. So once the traffic mission is done, your question matters. Am I being detained or am I free to leave? Berkemer v. McCarty means roadside traffic stops usually do not require Miranda warnings right away, so your words can still hurt you, even without the famous warning speech. That is why silence matters. Arizona v. Johnson means a frisk during a traffic stop means a reason to think you are armed and dangerous, not just a bad feeling. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. When you put those 4 rules together, you get a simple plan. Comply with lawful commands, do not consent, do not talk yourself into trouble, do not let the stop drift without asking if you are free to go. Now picture this, you're driving home at night, red and blue lights hit your mirror. You pull over safely, the officer says you rolled a stop sign. So far, normal. Then comes the wrong path. You start explaining everything. You say you were tired. You say you're coming from a friend's place. You joke because you're nervous. The officer asks if there is anything illegal in the car. You say no, of course not. Then he says, you don't mind if I check real quick, right? You laugh and say, sure, go ahead. I've got nothing to hide. Bad move. Then he keeps you there after handing back your license. You stay because you don't know better. A second officer arrives. A dog comes. Now you're standing on the shoulder, watching your trunk get emptied. Now watch what happens when you use the right steps. Same stop, same officer, same red and blue lights. You hand over your documents. You stay calm. You do not overshare. The officer asks where you're coming from. You keep it short, or you say, I choose to remain silent, and I want a lawyer if I'm being questioned. The officer asks to search your car. You say, officer, I do not consent to any searches. He tells you to step out. You say, I will step out, but I do not consent to any searches or questioning. You step out calmly. He finishes the warning, but keeps talking. You ask, am I being detained, or am I free to leave? Now the stop has shape. Now the officer has to either let you go, or clearly claim a reason to hold you. That is how you stop the blur. That is how you protect yourself without yelling, resisting, or acting tough. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection because it keeps the record clean and the choice is clear. Next video, I'm revealing what to say when cops claim they smell weed. Subscribe so you don't miss it because that one gets drivers searched every single day and the wrong response makes things much worse fast. So lock these in right now. First, never give free consent. Say, officer, I do not consent to any searches. Second, once the traffic job looks done, ask, am I being detained or am I free to leave? Third, stop feeding the stop with extra words. Use your silence on purpose. Fourth, if you're ordered out, comply calmly but do not volunteer consent. Here's the reality. You do not need to be loud to protect yourself. You need to be clear. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing was not some magic loophole. It was you knowing the line better than they expected. Hit subscribe so you catch that weed smell video next. Smash like if this script just saved your future self from a terrible stop. And drop a comment telling me which line you're going to memorize first. Stay safe out there.